This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Leagues Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is NRL Round review time, and it was round 11 in the NRL Telstra Premiership across the weekend. Another 8 games of rugby league before we hit the State of Origin series time, and a lot of clubs have buys, so there'll be 4 or 5 games a weekend, but there was 8 games, and it all kicked off up there in Newcastle. Newcastle taking on my Parramatta Eels, and the Eels got the victory, 28 points to 6. More about this game in the Game Review Podcast, which is out now, so if you want to hear more about this game, check that one out. But look, over 20,000 was at McDonald Jones Stadium. It was 5 tries to 1. Momax was on show for the first time in blue and gold. It was Mitchell Moses and Zach Lomax who scored 2 tries. And look, made his Origin credentials pretty good as he got selected for New South Wales in game number 1 of the State of Origin series along with Mitchell Moses. So congratulations to those 2 Eels for that. Newcastle, look, I don't know where the points are going to come from. I said that in the game preview podcast, and look, they have really struggled for points this season, scoring points. They have let plenty of points in. I just don't know where they are going to score points from. They have had a number of halves combinations which doesn't help their cause, and look, there could even be another one next week. I know there is a few people trying to get Jackson Hastings back into that side, but look, a pleasing performance from Parramatta, which is really good to hear. It was great to see. It was great to be up there at Newcastle and watch that game, and it will give Parramatta some confidence going into the game against Manly. But more on that game in the Game Review Podcast, which is out now. The second game across that weekend, which was on Friday night at Accor Stadium in Sydney. It was a Bulldogs home game. Now, I didn't get to see much of this game, unfortunately, as I was in, I guess you could say, transit back home after the game. But what I did see was the fact that I did catch some highlights of this game, and it was another comeback victory for the Bulldogs. They ended up winning the game 24 points to 20 in front of 30,166 people. And it was another comeback from behind win. The Roosters, they will rue this opportunity of losing this game against one of the competition high flyers. They led 14-0 at half-time, but after half-time, they only scored the 1 try after half-time. And look, what a try it was. Mark Nwanganitawase, what a try. If you have not seen it by now, YouTube it, get on social media, you will see it. It is an absolute cracker of a try. There's a bit of a hop involved. There is a chip ahead, a regather and put down. Absolutely amazing try. Check it out. Now, Jared Hayne, he posted on his social media a similar sort of try from Krishnan Inu from back in the day. I think he said 2009, I think it was. 2 very similar tries, but look, this was a absolute great try from Marky Mark. It will go down as probably one of the tries of the season, and haven't we seen some crackers this season? But the Bulldogs, they roll on this season. They have a couple of players selected for State of Origin, Stephen Crichton and Max King. Congratulations to him for making the State of Origin side. So they will be without a couple of players this weekend, I think it is. I'll go through the draw at the end of this podcast, but they will be without a couple of players during this Origin series, no doubt. But a great comeback from behind win from the Bulldogs over the Roosters. The next game was the first game on the Saturday, which saw the Dolphins take on the Warriors up there at Suncorp Stadium. Pretty healthy crowd again up at Suncorp, 32,165. This was won by the Warriors, 16 points to 12. And look, aren't they playing some great footy these days? I think they're second on the competition table at the moment. They haven't played at home in a while as well, so that is good to see that they are getting those away victories. And look, Luke Metcalf I think he's coming second in the Dally M's at the moment. He's just playing some great footy. There was the Kurt Capewell try scored in the 35th minute. That was set up by him. He made a break. He put the little kick ahead, and Kurt Capewell was on the spot and got the ball and scored. That was a great try from set up by Luke Metcalf. The Dolphins, look, they came back in a flurry and scored a couple of tries through the Hammer and Herbie Farnworth, but it was all too late. It was 10-0 at half-time. They just simply ran out of time, and the Warriors got the win. And as I said, they are playing some good footy away from home, which is pretty crucial for them, because in years gone past, they just haven't been able to get those away victories, been pretty strong at home, with the exception of probably 2023, where they made the prelim final. But previous to that, they haven't been strong away from home, but this year is a little bit different. They are getting the victories away from home, and that is very crucial to their semi-final chances. James Fisher-Harris unfortunately sin-binned in the 76th minute for a high-contact shoulder charge tackle. He will miss round number 12 as he has taken a early plea for 1 week, which will be a bit of a blow for the Warriors, as they'll be back at home against the Raiders this week. But I'll go through that draw soon for round number 12. And Mitch Barnett as well is in the State of Origin side. Look, the Dolphins, they had I think a couple of tries disallowed. But look, as I said, they just left their run all too late and just couldn't get across the line in time to get those points and score. So, look, a little bit of a missed opportunity from them, but they'll be back in action soon enough. The next game on Super Saturday was up there in Queensland. It was at Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. It was the Cowboys taking on the Sea Eagles. And the Sea Eagles, they got the win, 24 points to 6 over the Cowboys. Very disappointing, I think, from the Cowboys. They had the 30-all draw against the Panthers the week before. I actually tipped the Cowboys to get this win in front of their home fans, which was 18,965 in attendance. And look, it was the Sea Eagles. Now, I didn't realise until after this game that the Sea Eagles actually have a great record up in Townsville, so perhaps I should have tipped the Sea Eagles in this one. But look, Tom Trbojevic, he's still, I guess, not looking the same striking player as we have known him to become. I think a little bit worried or hampered by that knee injury that he has at the moment. So he's just not a real strike player at the moment. You can see that in his game. His brother Ben scored a try in the 75th minute, which pretty much wrapped up the game. Well, it was pretty much wrapped up before that. and Lehigh Hapawadi got a try in the 69th minute, and Jason Saab got a couple of tries as well. I think one of them was pretty much a runaway try, a great backline move which saw him, I think, run 40 or 50 metres to score that try. 6-all at half time. You thought maybe still anybody's game, but it was Manly who came out after the break and laid those tries on and got the victory. As I said, disappointing again from the Cowboys. They're going to go through a little bit of a tough period at the moment with injuries and Origin players as well. Tom Didden most likely is selected for Queensland. I think Murray Tuilagi was injured, so he did not get selected. So a little bit of a tough period coming up for the Cowboys. I think they had the bye next week, which will come in handy, although it was a 4-point game for them, so they will be disappointed about that one. The last game on Super Saturday was played at Shark Park in front of 11,570 people. The arch rivals, the Sharks, took on the Melbourne Storm. Now, the Melbourne Storm, they were favourites going into this game. They towed up the Tigers 64-0 last week back there down at home at Amy Park. But Shark Park is not a very happy hunting ground for them. They don't have the best of records there. And it was time, I guess you could say, for the Sharks to really prove themselves against a competition heavyweight, as they lost to the Panthers, they lost to the Bulldogs. They hadn't really had a big scalp until this one, the Melbourne Storm, who were flying high the week before, as I said. The Melbourne actually scored the first try. Look, it was 5 tries all in this game. Ryan Pappenhausen a little bit off with the boot, only 3 from 5. So it was a courageous effort in the second half from the Melbourne Storm as they were down 25 points to 12. Braden Trindle kicked a field goal right on half-time, which just gave them an extra point. They only scored 1 try in the second half to Daniel Atkinson. But look, Xavier Coates, he got a triple. And look, one of his tries, again, if you get to go through YouTube or the NRL website, check this try out as well. Absolute, what a leap from him to secure the ball over the top of Daniel Atkinson and score a try. It was absolutely amazing. Some AFL fans are saying you should come and join an AFL team because with leaps like that you'll be taking marks left, right and centre, but I'm pretty sure he'll stay in rugby league. But absolute cracker of a try, that one, and don't we know that he can score some great tries as we have seen in the past. Look, this will give the Sharks confidence, definitely, of beating a competition heavyweight, and especially at home as well. And as I said, it'll just give them confidence. They will probably be a little bit worried about letting the Melbourne Storm back into the game early in the second half, but they managed to hang on. And look, I don't think will be Origin affected as well through this period. As good as Nicho Hynes did play, unfortunately, I think he's got Mitchell Moses, Jerome Luai, also Nathan Cleary in front of him. So I think the Sharks will hold on to him throughout this Origin period. And look, they could go on a little bit of a run through this period, like the Warriors usually do as well during Origin time. They go on a little bit of a run sometimes, or a good opportunity for them, not being massively Origin affected. Ronaldo Mulatalo, he scored a try, and look, some questions have been raised about him and his antics on the field, trying to get under the skin of opponents. Some say, you can go for it, do whatever you want, especially if you're scoring tries and winning. Others say, look, you're lucky that it's the punching rule is out of rugby league, because back in the old days, if you carried on like that, then you probably would have got one across the chops. But Look, that's, I guess, Ronaldo. Maybe it might be one thing that Coach Craig Fitzgibbon will talk to him about and just get that out of his game, maybe. Because, as I said, sometimes it is called for, trying to get your opposition off, but other times it's not, and it could actually work in the reverse way as well, because it could actually fire up the opposition, and in this case the Melbourne Storm, next time these two teams play in big games. Sunday, 3 games on the Sunday this time due to the Women's Origin that was played on the Thursday night. And look, just going back to the Thursday night there, congratulations to the New South Wales women's side, the Sky Blues, for getting the victory done and wrapping up the series, 26 points to 6. I should have started off with that one actually, but I apologise for that one. But the Blues women's side, the New South Wales Blues, got the victory, 26 points to 6 in front of 16,026 loyal and not mad, but loyal fans, because the conditions were atrocious. Now, I must say something about Allianz Stadium. They spent all this money on Allianz Stadium, and the drainage system there, look, it is no good. No good at all. But the conditions that these women played in, they are the conditions you love to play in rugby league in, but certainly not rugby league at this level. But the conditions were atrocious for these women to play in, and it's the stadium. I don't know why it is like this. You spend so much money on a stadium and it ends up like this. We saw it last year, I think it was, with Parramatta and the Sydney Roosters. Bit of a downpour, and the drainage system just didn't work. And I think they were even worse conditions back there last year. But look, great conditions to play in, very fun conditions to play in, slipping and sliding everywhere. But look, I think the amount of money spent on that stadium, they could do better. Look, bit of controversy. The first try of the game was scored by Tamika Upton. Now, excuse me, if you go back and look at the replay, I believe, and I'd have to get a referee's opinion on this one, but I believe that Olivia Koenig grounded the ball and was not trying to pick it up and run away, but many a fan have said that she was trying to ground the ball as well. I think even Tamika was a little bit surprised that the try was awarded as well, to be honest, but look, they did score the first try, but then it was all New South Wales, 5 tries to 1. Jamie Chapman, she scored another try, and due to the conditions, just basically slid over. Olivia Koenig, she was the player of the game. She got a double as well. One of those tries just basically sort of swiping away Tamika Upton, and it was almost a very determined run to that try line to get the ball done. Jessie Southwell, 3 from 5 with the boot. Controlled the team. Her kicking game was good. Actually, she said in a post-match interview that Joey Johns had rang her in the morning of the game and just had a little bit of a chat and just said, look, get your kicking game right, concentrate on that one and you'll be right. And so great advice from the 8th Immortal to Jessie Southwell as well. So congratulations to the Blues women's side for getting that job done. Look, Blues fans, get up to McDonald Jones Stadium on the 29th of May if you can, a Thursday night, as Game 3 will be up there and they will be looking for the clean sweep of the Queensland Maroons. So, look, if you can, get up there, support the women. McDonald Jones Stadium, Thursday, 29th of May, 7:45 p.m, and see if New South Wales can go 3-0. But back to the NRL, and it was Sunday, and it was the Dragons taking on the Broncos up at Suncorp Stadium. It was a fine weather day there. The return of Ezra Mam, he got a try assist, 2 try assists, I think it was. All eyes were on him and on his return. 38,016 turned up. Look, it was a fairly even contest, and I thought that the Broncos, I did tip the Broncos in this game. I thought they would get the victory at home in front of their home fans. But the Dragons, they never gave up, did they? It was 12-4 at half-time. It took the Dragons a while to get into the game. The first try was Tyrell Sloan in the 32nd minute. He scored a double as well, but it took him 32 minutes to score some points in this game. But Clint Gutherson, he scored a double. Was probably the player of the game, I'd say. And the try from Jacob Little in the 57th minute, absolutely outstanding. Little hooker, player number 14, came on the field. And at this point scored a runaway try. That was about, that could have been 60-metre try, I think it was. I think by memory picked up a loose ball and just basically bolted, and Ezra Mam couldn't get him and scored a try. It was a great try, and he's playing some great footy off the bench, and something that the Dragons not rely on, but have Coach Shane Flanagan has planned that really well with Damien Cook in the side as well. Valentine Holmes 4 from 5 conversions and 1 penalty goal as well, basically just after half time, which made it 12-6 to get him back in line with a converted try behind. But they ended up winning the game. Bit of a nervous time right at the end of the game. Jesse Arthur scored a try in the 76th minute, but the last play of the game, the last couple of minutes of the game, the Broncos were peppering the Dragons line, but they were able to hold on. So congratulations to the Dragons and Coach Shane Flanagan for getting that win up in Brisbane. The next game was the Raiders taking on the Titans. Now, the Raiders, they went down to the Bulldogs a week before after leading 20-0 at half-time. The Titans, they came back for a victory against the Newcastle Knights after going down 20-0 at one stage in that game, so they came back and won. But it was the Raiders in front of 9,650 fans who got the win, 40 points to 24, and actually helped Parramatta get off the bottom of the ladder with 4 and against. But it was 8 tries to 4. Some great tries being scored by the Raiders, and look, they are travelling really well. They're probably, a lot of people at the start of the year did not know how they were going to go. They had that little disruption in Vegas with Morgan Smithies and I think it was Hudson Young. They had that little distraction there, but they overcame that one, got the victory over there, and just haven't looked back since. They got a really good win against the Melbourne Storm, Golden Point extra time in Magic Round. They'll be disappointed they lost last week against Canterbury, but they turned it around this weekend against the Titans. Hudson Young, he scored a try and got selected as well for New South Wales, so congratulations for him as well. Xavier Savage got a triple. Loves scoring tries, Xavier Savage, doesn't he? Zach Hosking as well got a try, which was a really good one as well. So they're just playing some really good footy. And look, I suppose going under a lot of people's radars, I guess. For the Titans, unfortunately, another loss for them. Look, it was 18-12 at halftime, still anybody's game, but they just couldn't hold off the fast finishing Canberra Raiders. Canberra scored right after half time, and then 5 minutes later, 6 minutes later, and then Xavier Savage scored the last try in the 74th minute, but they just couldn't match it with the Raiders. So unfortunately for Coach Des Hasler, another loss, and puts them under a little bit of pressure now as they are on the bottom of the table. The last game of the weekend was played out at Campbelltown Sports Ground in front of 11,102. Saw the West Tigers take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Very old, wet and cold night out there at Campbelltown. And this game was in the balance for a long time. It was 4 tries to 2 to the Rabbitohs. It was 12-6 at half time. And look, the game was in the balance for a long time. Api Coruscant got a double for the Tigers. Now, I think it was his first try. Basically made a break and then stood up Latrell Mitchell at fullback, and it was great to see on social media Latrell Mitchell posting that and just on his story and just saying, got me happy. So yeah, look, it was good sportsmanship there. Alex Johnston got another try. I think it's his 197th try, so he is getting closer to the total, becoming the best ever try scorer in rugby league. So 212 is the leading player at the moment, Ken Irvine. So he is 15 tries away from that record at the moment, but got another one on the weekend which got him closer. Latrell Mitchell, 3 from 4 with a boot. Look, he tried to get himself involved in a lot of things and obviously get in the collision as well on occasions. Some of the fifth tackle options probably weren't the best, but they ended up getting the job done in the end. Tallis Duncan was sin-binned in the 67th minute, which put a lot of pressure on the Rabbitohs leading into that last 10 minutes as Api Coruscant scored his second try there. And it was close then and put a lot of pressure, but the Rabbitohs, they held on. Jai Arrow got the last try in the 78th minute for the Rabbitohs, and they were able to go on with the victory. A bit disappointed for the West Tigers in front of their home fans out there at Campbelltown. The Rabbitohs, they're getting a couple of victories in a row here now, and travelling not too bad. They will be Origin affected, obviously with Latrell Mitchell for New South Wales, but so a little bit of a tough period coming up for them. So there were some great games over the weekend. I don't think it was as good as last weekend, but there certainly was some great moments once again this weekend in the round, as there always is every single weekend. The game is just popping up these great moments, memorable moments, left, right and centre each and every round. Look, as we go to the ladder, and the Bulldogs are out on top, having won 9 games, only lost the 1, and having the 1 bye on 20 points. The Warriors on 18 points in second spot. The Raiders third on 16th, and the Melbourne Storm on 14th. They round out the top 4. The bottom 4 of the top 8, that gets confusing, doesn't it? In fifth place, I should say, the Sharks on 14, the Sea Eagles 12, Rabbitohs on 12, and the Cowboys are just holding out the Brisbane Broncos on 11 points. Outside the 8 in 9th is the Broncos. The Dragons join them on 10 with that win over the Broncos. The Roosters, Tigers are also on 10 points. The Tigers in 12th spot. The Panthers, who had the bye across the weekend, they are on 9 points. And the bottom 4 teams are on 8 points each, with the Dolphins, Knights, Eels and Titans. So that is your ladder. Now, if we look just quickly to next week is a shortened round due to State of Origin, with 7 teams having the bye this weekend. So with State of Origin not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, there's 7 teams having the bye. Only 5 games of NRL this weekend. Looks like some great matchups here, though, even if they are Origin affected, with the Bulldogs taking on the Dolphins, the Eels playing the Sea Eagles at Combang, the Panthers taking on the Knights, and that one is out at Carrington Park, out at Bathurst. The Panthers got a bit of a deal going out there, so that one being played out at Bathurst. So that'll be a really interesting game, because the Panthers, I think, have 5 players out due to Origin, and Newcastle have their best player, Kalen Ponga, out as well for Origin. So that one will be really interesting. Roosters and Sharks, Warriors and Raiders. So the teams that have the bye are the Broncos, Cowboys, Dragons, Rabbitohs, Storm, Titans and Tigers. Thank you very much for listening to the NRL round review for round number 11. Round number 12 next week. So pretty much nearly getting to the halfway point of the season. So the teams down the bottom of the ladder will want to be trying to get wins to get their way up before it's too late to get those points. But thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. Share it with your family and friends. Give me a follow on Instagram and Facebook, also Apple and Spotify. But nevertheless, till next time, the Para Cave Podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! How you going, mate? Are you a Para Cave Podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave Podcast. See you next time.